under CTA, multiple contractors labor categories could appear under it, and then under a prime sub relationship, it would only be the labor categories that are provided under the prime contractor's GSA schedule contract. And then lastly, in terms of fee remittance and payment, each team member reports their sales to GSA and remits their fee to us quarterly. And under a prime sub relationship, only the prime contractor is accountable for reporting sales and remitting the industrial funding fee to GSA. So now we're going to get into topic 2, which was really going to talk about establishing and utilizing contractor teaming arrangements. One of the great things to look at, or one of the great electronic tools that GSA has, is eLibrary, and it gives you an opportunity to review scheduled contracts, see contractors, see what which contractors are on which schedule, and this can give you an idea about where you can start forming in the vendor community those teaming arrangements and those teaming partners. I would also really suggest that getting out on to conferences and networking with your fellow partners in industry is also a good opportunity, because often at times these agreements are set in advance and ahead of time, so that sometimes the government does release RFQs. They have very short durations to get proposals in, and so sometimes having these set teaming arrangements really positions industry well to respond with a solution that meets the government's requirements. So obviously, eLibrary is one way to potentially identify teaming partners, but we also suggest that you go out and network, and also even use our Interact platform as an opportunity to engage in dialogue with various folks of government and industry and potentially meet connections. So here we're going to talk a little bit about CTAs. Talked about this a little bit before, but CTAs really can be made in advance of a requirement, and I think that's generally a best practice. If you can identify who are likely candidates that are teaming, that would be good teaming partners, and you do have a target market for what area sector of the government that you're going after, having those pre-negotiated teaming arrangements really does position you well to be able to quickly respond to RFQs. And just for folks who don't know, the minimum amount of time an RFQ must be posted on GSA's eBuy is 48 hours. Another key element about establishing CTAs is that this is something that the scheduled contractors are responsible for creating themselves, and it's really agreement between them. So the government doesn't get involved in the drafting of the CTA. In some cases, and we'll talk about this in the presentation a little bit later, that we do provide common elements that are found within these, but we don't get involved in the drafting of it. Another key element is that the CTA document should be submitted with a quotation in response to an RFQ, and the document really should contain all elements identified by GSA. And it's interesting. There was a GAO case, a protest case, where they denied a protest where a vendor failed to provide all their information on its teaming partners, and essentially the government said that they could not evaluate the offerer's capability to perform, and so and so the contractor came in and protested that, and GAO denied the protest. So it's important to make sure that you provide that CTA document and make sure that it addresses everything to ensure that the government can evaluate the quote. Communication is critical in terms of contractor teaming arrangements. Obviously it's important to outline the points of contact, but it's also important that the communication happen among the team members. Communication with the government can be with a team lead if it's desired. A lot of times, a lot of customer agencies desire to have a team lead to help manage the various team partners and want to communicate with one point of contact. but communication is a real key element throughout the process. I want to talk about the responsibility on ordering activities when teaming is being proposed as part of a quotation in response to an RFQ. Agencies should be able to review the CTA document, have a thorough understanding of how it's going to work, what vendors are going to what teaming partners are going to provide what as part of the arrangement. They should have clarification on areas of responsibilities. Is there going to be a team lead? What are the various team members responsible for? Is the team lead going to handle invoicing, or is it going to go to the various teaming partners? It should have, again, some identification of deficiencies. Who's going to perform what? Who's going to be accountable for what deliverables? And who should the government be evaluating in terms of performance? It should clearly list out the pricing against the various GSA schedule contracts. So the ordering CO should be able to verify the pricing and make sure that they're quoting at the GSA schedule price or less. Critical, again, is that there shouldn't be no conflicting terms with the underlying schedule contract, so they should be able to look at the teaming arrangement and say, okay, this does not conflict with any of the terms and conditions with the various team members' schedule contracts. And then finally, obviously, the arrangement should be crafted in a way that it meets all the requirements of the RFQ.